The news is ephemeral most of the time, but sometimes you'll come across a headline that immediately bookmarks itself into history. And you'll know that moment when you think to yourself, life will never be the same after this. My name is Bree from 1134 Press, where we share bookmaking, journaling, and papercraft inspiration to help you document your life. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you some inspiration on how I document current events in my journal. Our journals are tools for processing, reflecting, and record keeping. So let's lend its functions to journal about current events and add your voice to our collective history. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I'd like to mention that I will be donating the AdSense money earned from this video from now into the end of July to a cause that supports women's reproductive rights in light of the recent Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. If women reproductive rights are an important cause for you too, I ask that you sit through the ads. I know they're annoying. Maybe even watch this video twice and also share. I will also be sharing more resources in the link in the description if you would like to learn how you can help. So onward to the video. So I like to approach journaling about current events in two parts. One, the facts, two, the feels. When writing about the facts, it's less about writing about the specific details of the current event, although you should include that in your journal. But the point of this exercise is to ground yourself into the situation that you were in when you first heard the news. So an example of this could be, I was on my way to work, sitting in a traffic jam with the iced coffee sweating in my coffee holder. It was an unusually warm morning when I heard blank, or something like that. When you begin your journal entry with the facts of your situation, it contextualizes the bigger issue. It makes it more about the individual than the huge thing that's happening that's hard to comprehend what's happening. Taking this approach to this exercise is helpful when you're trying to figure out how you feel about it. If you're unsure or have any opinions about what's going on, sometimes going inward can be helpful to see outward. So essentially in this exercise, you're just taking inventory of what made up that moment of when you first heard about the news, or the moments that led up to you hearing the news. The second part of your journal entry is about the feels. This is the place to rant, to use metaphors, to try to gain some kind of clarity or understanding of what's happening. You want to be messy and free in the way that you communicate your feelings about this specific event. The point of this exercise is to try to find some kind of catharsis by just getting it all out onto the page. So now that we have an overview of the writing prompts, let's get to the fun part, which is where we collage and lay out the page. The layout of this journal entry was inspired by newspapers, which means that we'll be using body text, titles, and images laid out in grids and columns. You can use any materials that you have on hand, but I am using these materials to execute my entry. You will also need to source some images. I'm using mine from a book, but you could get them from magazines or print them out from online. Your photos don't need to be explicitly related to your current event. They can be abstract and tangentially related. It's also good to have decorative papers to add to your collages. Another helpful tool is a lined paper stencil, but a simple ruler will suffice. Before you begin, it's good to draft a layout before you actually start journaling to get an idea of what your page will look like how I did on this sheet of paper that's cut to the sides of the journal that I'm working in. I like vintage aesthetics, so I'm going to start by aging my paper. I'm using Tim Holtz Distress ink on the edges of the paper, and then I'm going to brush brown watercolor onto the wet pages. You can also use coffee or tea if you'd like. You can speed up the drying process by using a heat gun on its lowest setting, and once your paper is dry, further distress the corners of your paper with ink. Now that our papers are dried and aged, let's place our images. I recommend making light pencil marks to note where your text will land. Use your draft layout as a reference, but be open to the fact that it might change as you collage on the page. The key to achieving a newspaper layout is the clean and thoughtfully planned rows and columns. But of course we're making this by hand, so perfection doesn't exist. Once you're happy with the placement of your images, use pencil to mark where to paste them. It will help you keep things aligned. I found that liquid glue cut with a little water works best when placing fussy cut images. Next is to draw out guidelines for your text and titles. I'm using a combination of stamps and embossed labels for my titles and subtitles. Okay, so I don't have the best penmanship in the world, but I do want to share a little exercise to help you keep your text aligned when you're journaling in your page. Your grid lines will vary in length, but the objective is to keep your text fully adjusted so the words will be flush to the ends of your columns. A helpful exercise is to draw out a few lines that are 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and so forth. Then write out a sentence in your preferred handwriting style and see how many words and spaces will fit on each line. This will give you an idea of how many characters will fit on each line. It's not foolproof. You may have to hyphenate words or squish letters, but the more you practice and become in tune with your writing style, the more consistent your lettering will become. And now the only thing left to do is to journal with the prompts that I shared with you earlier. Thank you for watching, and I want to remind you to take care of yourself in these strange times. If you end up recreating this journal entry, please tag me at 1134press on Instagram, or you can share it onto our Facebook group, A Craft Room of Our Own. Links to all of that is in the description. And for those of you that are in the know, the Almanac Diary is going to move to Buy Me a Coffee. I decided that I don't think YouTube is the best place to post my process of completing that Almanac Diary project, only because I don't want to feel rushed, and when you're creating videos on YouTube you kind of have to stick to a regular uploading schedule, and I work really slow. So I would like to thank the members that are on Buy Me a Coffee. If you'd like to access the content that I'm posting over there, the links to that will be up top somewhere, and also in the description below. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.